Welcome to the Hawthorn Cottage Craft podcast. This is episode 51. I'm Kate. You can find me on Instagram as Kate_Hawthorn Cottage Craft, on Ravelry as a runner bean, and we have a Ravelry group for the podcast called Hawthorn Cottage Craft Podcast, and all the details should be on your screen or in the description box below the video. If you are new here, you're very welcome. I hope you enjoy your visit with us and hope you like it enough that you stay. If you're a returning viewer, you're very welcome back. It's always lovely to see you and to have your company. Today there's a few things to get through. I have one work in progress, I have a few finished objects, and we have the winner of the 10k giveaway to announce. So because of that, I hope you have your cuppa, I have mine here, and your knitting or whatever project you're working on, and we'll jump right in. So works in progress. I actually think at the moment I've only one active work in progress. I can't think of anything else that I have on my needles apart from the long-term blanket projects on the hook. But I can't actually think of any other works in progress I have at the moment. So this is one that I had started a little while ago, and then it had got set aside. I think it started it in the new year. I can't actually remember. But it did get set aside and then picked up again. And what I'm working on at the moment is the Terrazzo Slipover by Petite Knits. And I'll put a picture of it up here somewhere. And it's this beautiful slipover with a big neck and just a really comfortable looking casual piece of knitwear. It's worked top down, it's got a split hem, and I think you can basically make it as long or as short as you like. I'm going to make it quite long to cover the rear area. But it's something that I'm really enjoying knitting because it's a very meditative knit at this stage. I had yarn in stash that I've had for a long time. I am a great lover of Studio Donegal yarn, and this is yarn that I've had for quite a while. I was very lucky about a month ago to get a visit back down to Studio Donegal. It's somewhere that's not too far from my hometown. It's about an hour from it. So I really enjoy going down there, and I had a visit around Studio Donegal itself, and I also had a visit around and was given a tour of Donegal Spinning Company, which is just down the street a wee bit, and it's the company that actually spins all the yarn for Studio Donegal. So this yarn that I've got, I've seen how it's been processed, and that makes it just all the more interesting to work with. So this is the label for Donegal Wool Spinning Company. It is the same company as Studio Donegal, or at least it provides all the yarn for Studio Donegal. And the colour that I am working with is 2BC 3714. It's navy, and this is it. And as I say, I've had this for a while. I wasn't sure what to do with it, but this is how far I have come. As I said, it's worked top down. You worked the back of the yoke first, then you worked the shoulders, then you joined in the front to work the front of the yoke, and then joined in the underarm for the body. Now, it did take me a little while to get my head round what way I was working. I couldn't see it in my head when I was looking at the pattern, but it was really one of those cases where I just had to trust the pattern and do exactly what it said. It's not that it's difficult, it's just I couldn't picture it. But now that it's there, it is a really, really neat shoulder. And a lovely deep armhole, which I like. I want this to be loose and just like a really comfy piece that I can dress up if I want to, but that will look equally well with jeans and maybe a shirt or a long sleeve t-shirt underneath. But it's all stocking stitch, and the tweed of the Donegal Aran, the Aran is really coming out really pretty. All those Donegal neps. And it's working up now quite quickly. It's the kind of thing I can sit now and watch the television when I'm working or read my book, and really, really enjoying knitting this. There's not really very much more to say about it. It's just a straightforward knit. I'm looking forward to putting on the big neck. I should have plenty of yarn for this. Let's see how far I am in the body. I'm almost, I would say I'm kind of almost at the waist. And then it's the split hem with a lower back than front. And again, I'll just keep trying it on to see what I like, what length I like it and want it to be. I'm knitting this on a 4mm needle, which is a US 6, I think. And I'm knitting the medium size so that I have plenty of positive ease. I used to like my garments fitted, but I think I'm getting to the stage now where I like a wee bit of comfort, and this is providing that. This stitch marker Progress Keeper is by Maria, who is the Knitting in the Dark podcast, and I'm trying to remember her company name, but I'll put it on the screen below. Really pretty Progress Keeper, which just cheers up quite a plain piece of work at the moment. And I think I named it. It was the Terrazzo Slipover by Petite Knit. And I'm really, really pleased with this. It's just a really nice thing to sit down with in the evening and work on if I've been working on other things earlier in the day. I think just when you're working with Aran, it's you feel as though it's less effort. And what I love about Donegal yarn is very much a woolly wool, and can feel toothy when you're working with it and when it's in the ball. But when Donegal studio yarn washes and is blocked out, it really softens. I don't know if it's still next to skin, but it's an awful lot softer and just lovely and squishy once it has been soaked and washed. So this is a really pleasurable piece of knitting, and I'm really looking forward to having it finished and ready to wear. Finished objects. What I have finished this past, I suppose is it 6 weeks since I last chatted to you? Goodness, it's snowing again. I've had snow in the last week or two. Not a lot compared to other parts of the world, but for us, we're getting snow. Anyway, finished objects. Maybe they're all finished in appropriate time considering the weather. I have a few. I have, I suppose, 3, 4 main ones, and then some others to show you. But the first thing I finished, it's almost like an object per month, almost. The first finished object is my Christmas Eve cast on. I finally finished my Christmas Eve cast on. They kept getting put aside because of other projects, but I really wanted to get them finished because I did love them. I loved the pattern, I loved the yarn, and I just wanted to to finish them, because I really hate things that are languishing, because if they languish for me for any length of time, they really probably won't get finished, and I've gone off the idea of finishing them. So I wanted to finish my Christmas Eve cast on, and I had cast on the "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" socks by Danielle George, who is Danny of Little Bobbins Knits, who started off the Christmas Eve cast on phenomenon. And it's a pattern I have knit before and had really enjoyed. The yarn I used is the Winterwood sock set by Birch Grove by Christina, and she is on Etsy, and I'll link all the patterns and the yarn in the description box below. But this is my finished pair of socks. Now, because of the variegated style of the yarn, the pattern isn't particularly clear. The socks that I had knit previously were in a more solid colour, so you could see the pattern, but I still really wanted to knit this pattern. So you have little fir trees down the side. Maybe if I take it off. And there we go. There's little fir trees down the side. So a little bit of lace work down the side. In the pattern there's 3 repeats. I decided to do a few more to use more of the yarn. And then it goes into the tree trunk just on the foot of the sock. So this was a simple knit. It's, if you have never knit pattern or lace into socks before, it is a really good pattern to start with. And I suppose, I mean, it is a Christmas pattern, but it doesn't have to be. As I said, the yarn is by Birch Grove by Christina, and it was her Winterwood set. I think it's a merino nylon base. I don't have the label to hand. I cast on 64 stitches for this, which is my usual, on a 2.5mm US 1.5. And it was top down. I put in the heel flap and gusset, just a slip stitch heel flap and gusset with the little mini that came with the main colour. And then I did a rounded toe. And my rounded toe is, for the first 8 rows, it's alternate decrease, and then until I have 16 stitches left altogether, I decrease every row until I have 16 stitches. And then I kitchener the toe, and I have a nice rounded toe. I don't like particularly square toes, so that's quite rounded. And I'm really pleased with these socks. It was a project, as I say, that I had really enjoyed, and I didn't want it to get set aside because of everything else. So I got those finished actually about 2 days ago. So that is the "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" socks that I finished. The rest of my FOs are for the knit along, crochet along that we have running in the group at the moment, or on the podcast. If you have been watching for a while, you will know that in the hashtags HCC Lucky Dip KAL, you were asked to pick random skeins, single skeins from your stash, 100 grams basically, that maybe have been languishing there for a while. And for the Lucky Dip, what we do is we put them into individual bags or whatever way you want to store them, and then each month you pull out one of these skeins and create something with it. It could be knitting, it could be crochet, it could be weaving, whatever you want to make with that particular skein. And it's a good way of bringing down the stash, particularly maybe of things that have been sitting there for a while. There is a hashtag on Instagram which I've put across the screen here, and you can put what you're working on at the start of the month. You can put in the yarn that you've pulled, you can put in progress pictures, and there is a thread in the Ravelry group for this KAL as well. It's just one thread, you can chat on it, post your pictures and just see what everybody else is doing. So my first yarn, my daughter had put my yarn into bags for me, and some of it's deep stash, some of it's not. Actually, the first two projects have been fairly recent yarn acquisitions. This, I can't remember when I got it, it's within the last couple of years, but the first finished object is the January entry that I had. And I had got Shirley Bryan Yarns Deconstructed Fade set, and it comes in 2 skeins. Can't show you one because of them all wound up, but it comes in 2 50-gram skeins, and it is, as it said, it's a fade. And I wanted to use every last bit of this yarn. The colourway I have is St Elmo's Fire. So I decided I wanted to knit socks, but to use all the yarn and to make sure I could use all the yarn, I had to knit toe up. And they ended up knee socks, which is why they took quite a long time to knit. They're probably the kind of things that I'll wear bunched up around my ankles, either over leggings or, you know, in boots. But this is how they have turned out, and I love them. I decided I would do opposites. So they're definitely twins, but they're not matchy-matchy. In that I started with the blue, and then I started with the opposite colour. So because, as I said, I wanted to use all the yarn, I did toe up, and I started with Judy's Magic Cast On, which I will link a tutorial to underneath, and made quite a rounded toe, as rounded as I could make it. I worked the foot, and then I did my gusset increases because I was going the opposite way. And for that, because it's not something I'm used to doing, I have a pattern by Marceline Smith, who is Mars. Hey Brownberry, hi Mars if you're watching. I have her pattern, the Navigate socks, so I took her instructions for her heel from that and did my increases, and then I just knit and knit and knit and knit. I did these 68 stitches because I knew I wanted them to be able to bunch, and because I was doing them a longer leg I needed a bit more width. So they're 68 stitches rather than 64. Still a 2.5mm needle. I knit all my socks in 2.5mm, US 1.5, and love it. This was the second sock, and to make sure I had the right amount, I had to take a little bit of the red, the burgundy red off, and then start, but I think I could have done with not taking quite as much, because right in the middle of my cast off, bind off, I ran out of yarn. So I found a very similar blue grey in my stash and just finished off the bind off. And I just do my normal bind off. I don't follow any particular bind off. And I always worry about the flare out if I do a toe up sock. So instead of maybe trying to be a bit looser in a bind off that I would normally, I just do it at my normal tension and kind of pull it in, and then it means it doesn't flare, but it's still stretchy. So if you're worried about flare out in a bind off, just make sure you're knitting at your normal tension and that you're not, because I think we very often when it comes to bind off try to knit a little bit looser. so that it's not too tight, but just do it at your normal tension and you should be okay. So that is my January Lucky Dip. I love these. I love the deconstructed fade that Shirley Bryan Yarns has. And actually, I have a basket of them here, all wound up and ready to go. And it's for the habitation throw. I think I talked about it the last time, and I talked about the yarns the last time. So if you check out the last episode, you'll see those yarns in their original skeins. But they're ready to go. I just haven't got them started yet. But I love these yarns, absolutely love them, and those are all the Narnia colours that I have ready. But this was St Elmo's Fire, so check out her website again, it'll be linked below, and you might be able to pick up some really stunning yarn. So that was January. February, because these were taking quite a long time, I mean they were started in January but they were really only finished fairly recently. So in February when I pulled my yarn, I wanted something that would be a little bit quicker, and I decided I was going to crochet. And apart from blankets and doing granny stripes or granny squares, I don't really do very much crochet. So I was trying to pick something that looked quite simple, easy to follow. I'm always very aware that when it comes to crochet projects, you need to be quite careful, particularly if you're a newbie or a beginner, advanced beginner like me, that in crochet patterns, you have to check if it's American terms or British terms, because they are different. So I wanted something that kind of was quite repetitive, so that once I got the term that I needed in my head, I could work it without having to constantly go back and check. I think, for example, is it an American double crochet is the British treble, I think. Anyway, so I wanted something simple, and I found a pattern called the Humbug Scarf, and I'll put a little picture of it up here. And the yarn I had picked out, or that had been put aside for me for February, was a yarn I got last autumn. I had got one of the lovely boxes from Legacy Fibre Arts, and it was the Mulling Spices colourway. And I decided to do the scarf with it, and it's all done. Aren't those colours stunning? Beautiful autumnal colours. So this will be nice to set aside. I could wear it now in the spring, but it'll be nice to set aside for the autumn. So it's crocheted on the bias. I started at this end, and there were increases to here, and then from there it's all the one width. And as I said, it's on the bias. It's just a lovely little neat scarf. It's not bulky, it'll be nice under a jacket, and I'm really pleased with it. It was crocheted on a 4.5mm hook. I don't know what letter that is, but it's really pretty, and it was a nice change to do it in crochet and to see how the yarn worked up in crochet. I'm so used to seeing yarn being worked up in knit and pearls and whatever, but just to see how the yarn played with the crochet, and it is really pretty. And this was a really fast project. There's lovely little picots that were really easy to do. I was slightly intimidated when I saw them in the pattern, and until really I got to the straight bit, I had to really concentrate on what I was doing, and I thought I'm never going to memorize this, but it was so easy once I got past the increases to memorize and just work through. So that is my February Lucky Dip KAL finished object, the Humbug Scarf, and the yarn is by Legacy Fibre Arts. But, so that's January and February. March. I actually started and finished my March Lucky Dip KAL. Now, who am I that has it finished within the month it's meant to be finished in? The yarn I picked out for March, or the yarn that was set aside for me for March, was the Giddy Ant yarns. And this is their label. Giddy Ant Yarns is a local to me yarn company based in Belfast, I think, maybe Newtonards. They're certainly Northern Ireland, and the colourway was Winter Dawn, and it was a fingering weight yarn, Corriedale, 100% Corriedale, non-superwash. Their Corriedale high twist sock base. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it. But I got a new toy. I'll show you the finished object in a moment. I got a new toy just after Christmas. A few years ago I had the circular machine from Addy, the large one, with the idea, and I don't know what I wanted to use it for. I love the circular sock machines. Can't afford a circular sock machine, would love one, but I really liked the idea of having the circular sock machine and working things a little bit quicker. I have a lot, like I'm sure a lot of you do, I have a lot of scrap yarn. I have a lot of ends that came from previous projects. In a normal project, for example, let me see, this was the Christmas sock yarn. It's sitting on my desk to actually post to somebody. This was the Cozy Knitter sock yarn for the Advent stripe, and this is how much I had left from my socks. I had a full length pair of socks knit out of the 100 grams, and I still had this amount left. So I have a lot of yarn like this. I have smaller scraps which obviously go into my granny stripe blanket, but I have a lot like that. I have a lot of yarn left over from sweaters, and it's taking up boxes. And I've always liked the idea of charity knitting, but I'm too impatient to sit and knit hats or whatever for charity. But I had got the Addy machine, and I didn't like the Addy machine, and the Addy machine was actually comparatively quite expensive. And it wasn't going to get used, and it wasn't getting used. I was frustrated with it. I didn't like it, so I sold it. But of late, I had taken the idea of getting another machine, but I didn't want to pay the price of an Addy machine. And I had seen one actually on Amazon, and then when I looked on YouTube, there were loads of videos about this machine and some recent ones from different YouTubers. And this is the machine that I got. It's the Centro knitting machine. Circular knitting machine. You can knit on it flat. There's a little button here that you just change and you knit flat, but I'm wanting to knit in the round. And this was about a third of the price of the Addy, and I got it from Amazon. It's not the prettiest thing. It's a 48 pin machine, and it's really good for hats. Particularly, it works best with Aran double knit, sport weight, Aran worsted weight yarns. And I wanted to try it out. So the project that I did for March was with the yarn from Giddy Ant Yarns, and I cranked out a hat. Now, I know an awful lot of people have opinions about cranking out things, and it's not the same. I'm of the opinion it doesn't really matter whether you use a machine or you hand knit. I personally love hand knitting. I wouldn't want to be using machine all the time. But for the purpose that this will be used for, I think it's perfect. I want it for speedy projects. And I'm not going to do that if I'm hand knitting. And I suppose it brings up the argument, you know, if you're a hand sewer or somebody who sits and works on a sewing machine, what's the difference? So for me, I really like this for the purpose that I wanted. But I decided I would try a project for myself. And this is my March Lucky Dip. I have a beanie hat. I'm sure there are more complicated patterns you can do, but I want a simple beanie hat. And this was the yarn, which is beautiful. Now it's a fingering weight yarn, and it would be too airy and loosey-goosey if it was on its own. So I actually had the remnants of a Legacy Fibre Arts mohair, their vanilla bean colour, and I held it with the fingering weight, and that was thick enough to create this. And I don't think it's too loosey-goosey at all. It's maybe not as tight a gauge as I would normally knit. But what I did was I held it together and I cranked out 148, or I think because it was the fingering weight and it was slightly looser, I think I did about 150 rows. In a thicker yarn, I do about 140. And it comes out as a big long tube. And unlike a hand knit hat where I'll do decreases for the crown, you just pulled it in. You just cinched it in. You cinched it in both ends. So it was like a sausage. And then you fold it in itself. So it's double thick. And the one thing initially I was disappointed with was that the mohair all seemed to go to the wrong side. But I'm actually quite glad, because mohair in against my head would probably be a bit itchy. So it's all sandwiched in the middle, which makes this really soft and squishy. And I had a pom-pom to trim it, pom-pom that I'd got from Hank's Yarn Parlour in Belfast. And it's just put in with a ribbon so it can come off. But then, as I said, you did the tube, you folded it in itself, and you have a really thick, warm, cozy hat. And for something that took 40 minutes from start to finish, I am over the moon. I love this hat. So that is the Centro knitting machine. Created my March Lucky Dip KAL. And the yarn is so pretty. And now that we have snow trying to fall out there, it could be quite appropriate. And as I said, it takes 40 minutes. So that is really not long. And it's the kind of thing that I realised I can crank out so many rows, and if I get tired, go and do something else. But I also discovered it was a great thing to do when I was working on other things, because I could stop and go and crank out a hat. And I have cranked out hats since I got this. I have cranked out hats. This was the very first one they gave yarn. And that was my trial run, which was very tight. Might fit a child, and it might not. But what I am planning, I want these to donate these to the homeless charities in Belfast. If they're of any use to them, it's certainly a better use of the yarn than lying in my boxes and cupboards. So I literally took scraps and held them together and worked them. Some of them where maybe I knew that I probably would never use them again for anything else. I put them in, I held some double. If I had fingering weight yarn, I held them double. And there could be maybe 2 or 3 different colours. So this would have been one skein that I was working with, and I think, yeah, I'd marled that, so I'd held it with a cream. And that's what I did with a lot of them. I just held 2 together randomly. Very often, because I have the same kind of colour palette for most things. I was able to match them fairly well. But I have all these hats from leftovers. As I said, some of them are done with thicker yarn. They're all reversible. So I think I've 23 or 24 hats all done. This one I love because I love that yarn anyway. It's Patton's Crochet, and I had the ends of 2 balls, so I was able to hold them together. Say reversible. And I realised that my husband actually stole one of them. I had knit him a hat at Christmas, and his colleague had seen it, and Peter told them that I had these other hats and he took one for him, which I suppose is a compliment. But there's all these beautiful, this was, I really love this one actually. This was Knit Picks Felice, and I think there was 2 of them held there, marled. It was a Knit Picks and a cream one, so you could wear it either way, like that. Or like that. So there's a real range of them, a lovely bright one. And obviously I'm not being particularly fussy with them. So some of them look a bit bigger than others. They're all done to the same length, 140 rows. But just because of the yarn, some of them come out bigger than others. But that's okay, because people's heads are all different sizes. And if they go to the charities, people can pick out or be given the ones that fit. So I actually feel as though my stash has gone down quite a lot. There's actually, I weighed it, and I think there's about 2.5 kilos of yarn out of my stash just in this basket. But that is the central, and I'm really glad now I've got one for myself that I did specifically, and that was my merch, Lucky Dip KAL. If you haven't been part of the Lucky Dip KAL, you can join at any time. Feel free just to dive into your stash every month and pull a skein of yarn. But just again, and I leave the Amazon link. I'm not affiliated. I'll just leave the link in the description box. It's the Centro knitting machine. As I say, it's about 1/3 of the price of the Addy knitting machine, and I would say, my opinion, it's actually better. It is actually better. It's smoother, and I had no issues at all with it. So there was quite a lot. I think in total, if you count all my hats, I had nearly 30 finished objects. Now that has to be a record. So that is my finished object. On to the giveaway. Now, the giveaway. I think the edge was taken a little bit off the giveaway by the bot that seemed to attack the comments. I'm sure you're all aware that many YouTubers are facing this issue at the minute, that someone has come in and is mimicking the YouTuber and leaving messages on comments saying that you've won a prize, to get in touch through some Telegram system. And it looks so plausible because they put the name of the podcast in their comment, so, or in their handle, and it just looks, and it's so easy to get dragged in. I myself, before I had actually put up this giveaway, I follow a YouTube channel, Living Big in a Tiny House. I love that channel. And they weren't even running a giveaway, but I got this message from them saying I had won a prize. And thankfully, I had the wherewithal to contact them and say, through their proper website, I've got this. It doesn't look legit, just checking, and it wasn't, obviously. But so many channels now have been affected by it, and it broke my heart when people were sending me their details, sending me messages saying, I think I've won, I never win anything, I think I've won, these are my details. And to say that actually that wasn't legitimate. So I am really sorry if you got caught in that. All I can say is I only ever announce prize winners here like this. I will tell you who has won the prize. I will not put it under a comment. I will not tell you through a comment that you have won. It will always be done through this. So please, if you get any of these kind of comments, check with me through another means. Don't respond to that one. Check with me through another means. Private message me on Ravelry, and the details are below, or on Instagram. Send me a message just to double check, because I really don't want you getting caught where you give your details to somebody who is out to scam you. So please, please always double check. Also, can I ask, if you get a comment like that, can you please report it? There are so many comments that I can miss them. And I reported this I spent an afternoon talking to YouTube, Google about this. And I was basically told to tell everybody just to report it. That was what was being done. So all I can ask is that just beside the comment there's like 3 wee dots and it says report. Please report if you get one of these comments, and that is possibly the only way we're going to get rid of them. Anyway, we did have a 10,000 subscriber giveaway, and again, thank you so much for faithfully coming back to join me and for subscribing and being part of this community. I appreciate it to no end. And we had a lot of comments that weren't bots that I was really chuffed to read through, and hopefully I've seen them all and loved them all. And yeah, so I put the comments into the random chooser to pick for the prizes, and we have some really lovely prizes, as you know. So the first prize is this bag from Sandy, from Sandy by the Lakeside. Her bags are stunning. You know I love them. I have many. So I think there's, if you look around most corners of my house, there's a bag by Sandy sitting somewhere. So Sandy has very kindly donated this bag, and the winner of this bag was Vivian Martin. Congratulations, Vivian. If you could contact me, and if all the winners, when they're announced, could contact me through Instagram or Ravelry with their contact details, postal details, I'll get those sorted out. So Vivian, well done, congratulations. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being part of the community, and this bag will be on its way to you. The second prize was this beautiful skein of yarn from Woolly Mammoth Fibre Company. Emma has kindly given us 2 prizes for it, and this is her natural sock base BFL Cheviot wool, all spun in the UK, sourced and spun in the UK and dyed here in Northern Ireland in Ballymoney, and the colour is Forest Tapestry. All those beautiful colours. So this was won by Sherry Dodson. Congratulations, Sherry. This is yours. Again, if you can contact me with your details, that will be on its way to you. And Emma also gave us this mini skein set, which is the same colourway as this. It's the Forest Tapestry and the individual colours. And this set is going to Tattered Rose. Well done to you. Thank you again for subscribing and commenting and being part of the community. And finally, I have these 2 skeins of Welsh wool that I had picked up in, now I can't pronounce it properly, it's Trefru. Woolen Mill in North Wales. It's 100% Welsh wool. It's Aran weight, and that shade of green is just gorgeous. So this set here is going to Fish Cove 5. Thank you all for subscribing to my channel, for being part of the community, for making it what it is, for being such a friendly place and just a lovely place to come into and be part of. I will get those off to you as soon as I have your details. And again, thank you. That is it, I think. Quite a lot. I will leave you with some footage. I think I have footage on. There should be footage, you should have already seen it, of the Donegal trip and some of the scenery around there, and some from Studio Donegal and the Donegal Wool Spinning Company. And also I'm going to leave you with some footage from a little trip to Dublin that I took with my daughter. It's only a couple of hours on the train from here, and we had a lovely day and visited the newly refurbished This Is Knit, one of my favourite yarn shops, and did a little bit of shopping there. So I'll leave you with that footage as well, the two yarny trips that I've had of late. But thank you again for viewing and being with me and just giving me your company for today. If you haven't already subscribed, hit the button and you'll be informed then, and the bell button, and you'll be informed then of when I do podcast. Hopefully it won't be as long a break. I hadn't really intended the 6 weeks that it was, but there you go, life. But I hope you enjoyed today, and until I see you again, enjoy your knitting and happy St. Patrick's Day from this little corner of Ireland.